Bridget in Kettering, and she wants a garden with a Celtic theme to it to remind her of growing up in Ireland.
Hello, I'm Bridget and I live in Kettering.
And I'm Aaron, Bridget's son.
Now, Bridget's got a really long, thin garden, and there's not much going on. It's got real potential, this garden.
I lived here 29 years approximately. When I was working, I didn't care too much about the garden, but now that I'm retired, I want more time to enjoy the garden.
Oh my, the garden is huge. Talk about green fields of Ireland, and it looks like it's on a slope.
Bridget's got a really small patio outside the back door, and then that's it.
Lots of bins as well.
At the moment, they're taking up this little bit of my patio here, and there is not much room for furniture. The main issues with my garden at the moment are it's just a long expanse of grass. There's no interesting features there at all, and it's quite boring to me anyway, and bland.
Well, it's green, but not much else in the way of colour, I can see that.
What I don't like about the garden is everything. There's no sort of flat surface. It's just grass. There's a wild jungle area at the bottom of the garden. The concrete level surface here there's no sort of one long stretch where you can have someone sitting down. I think particularly for Mum, it's not very relaxing at all.
I agree that Bridget definitely needs somewhere to sit in this garden. At the moment, there's that awkward patio, and then just that big sea of turf.
You like the grass, don't you?
No, I don't like too much grass, really, to be honest. I like easily maintenance plants, really.
Lower maintenance.
It desperately needs rescuing, and I would love if you could turn it into my dream garden.
So let's have a look at what Bridget wants from the garden.
What I would like from my garden is an extended patio.
Mum really needs like a space where she can entertain and, you know, be with her friends and socialise, because at the moment the patio is really small, it only fits her, and she hasn't had anyone over for quite a long time.
There's a big old step down from the back door to the patio area.
I would like some place for my bins to be stored, because at the moment it's just bin city.
Somewhere to hide the bins, because it does look a bit of a mishmash.
I didn't really have a garden when I was growing up, because my dad just did a vegetable garden. Possibly some vegetables, because he used to grow his own potatoes, carrots, cabbages, and they were absolutely lovely. So I would like to try and see if I could do that in my garden.
OK, somewhere to grow, maybe some fruit and vegetables. That could be really interesting.
Mum would like to see in her garden something that makes her feel closer to home. So Celtic influences. Waterville, where she's from, it's surrounded by water. So just something that sort of harks back to her childhood home.
And definitely a nod to her Celtic roots. Maybe some water.
OK, so the budget for this garden is £5,000.
Wowee.
Bridget's wanting this Celtic-inspired garden.
Bridget and Aaron have been sent the designer's pictures.
Bridget, I've given you a design to remind you of your childhood in Ireland, but also to give you a space to relax in during your retirement, do a bit of pottering around the garden, entertain friends, and also sit in the evening and enjoy the sunsets.
Oh, that looks nice.
Hi, Bridget. This is my Celtic-inspired garden. I've designed you a space that's going to remind you of your homeland in Ireland, and I've taken inspiration from the Celtic knot and all the symbolism around that. I've designed you a really naturalistic space that's going to work perfectly with the narrow, skinny plot that you've got.
OK, wow, he's gone all out on Celtic.
Both designers have paid close attention to the brief, but it's the details that make or break a pitch. So what are their plans near the house?
Here's your back door. So I've got these steps that come down. Now I've made them wider and more attractive so they're easier to go down, and they lead down to this patio surrounded with planting, but also I've made the bin area much more attractive and practical.
So those bins are going.
So this is the bin storage with a green roof on the top, but also pots of herbs, so that you can come out the back door and pick fresh herbs.
And there'll be a nice scent when you walk out of the house as well.
And then you've got this seating area that overlooks this lovely sweeping lawn. I've got a feature shrub or small tree here, something that gives you interest and colour throughout the year and is easy to maintain.
That looks lovely down there as well.
So I've designed you a really naturalistic garden, and it's going to take the form of these paths that wind and weave their way through the garden.
I just love the meandering of it.
They take you to these first two circular raised beds. So I've introduced some really interesting Celtic-inspired structures. The first of which are going to be these wooden posts that surround these two circular beds. I've taken inspiration from the Celtic knot, and I'm using these to raise the height and create these snug little pockets of grow your own raised beds. We've got one near the house that will feature a fruit tree, and then the second one where you can grow your own herbs, fruits and vegetables.
So many little nooks and crannies to the garden as well.
They're going to create these little paths, these circular routes, meaning that you can walk all the way around them, and they kind of never end, a little bit like the Celtic knot.
The two designs are strikingly different, with Charlie addressing the practical issues, whilst Lee's plan is full of Celtic romance. So what's their vision for the central section of the garden?
So then we've got this bound gravel path that leads down to this second seating area. I've given you 3 raised vegetable beds.
That's lovely with the vegetable area there.
As you come down through the planting, you come across this tranquil sound of the water feature. This is like a babbling brook that leads down to a reflective pool.
The water feature now, that looks interesting, doesn't it?
And then we've got the seating area down the bottom for the sunsets, surrounded by lots of scent and colour. So we've got the pergola that links the two planting areas together, covered in lots of different climbers, different clematis, different roses and jasmines. And then we've got this curved combination of trellis and posts, so that you're sort of surrounded by climbers when you're sat down here watching the evening sunset with the sound of the water trickling down.
There's so much here for you to sort of smell, see.
As we move further through the garden, I'm going to create these willow withies as arches which will punctuate the garden. And they're going to be tied together at the top, which takes the symbolism from the tops of the Celtic knots.
Those Celtic knot arches as well, they really hit the brief.
It is, yeah.
There's also these specimen trees to help increase privacy within the garden, which means that you'll feel like you're miles away from where you actually are. This path is going to wind through the midsection, where I've got these stone monoliths that are going to remind you of the coastline and island.
Those stone monoliths, I'm crazy about those.
Charlie's hoping for the win with her raised veg beds and babbling brook, whilst Lee's hitting the right notes with his Celtic touches. It now all hinges on the bottom of the garden.
And then you go down to this second area of lawn, which is much more like a meadow with a big apple tree down at the bottom with a bench seat underneath, because there's nothing more lovely than watching the last of the sun disappearing sat under a tree on a simple bench seat with all the wildlife and birds twittering round.
I can imagine you reading a book on that bench as well.
I'm going to create you a beautiful bog garden with a wildlife pond. I'm going to be using composite decking so it's non-slip for you to create almost like this boardwalk or jetty out towards the natural pond. And you'll be able to sit here in the evening and watch the sun go down, whilst all sorts of wonderful and weird insects use the pond as a place of refuge.
The idea of the jetty as well sounds lovely.
With that, the pitches are over.
Right, Lee's gone all out on the Celtic theme, but Charlie's thought more practically about your bins.
It's true, yeah.
And the relaxing areas as well. So I think we need to have a think about it.
The designs are poles apart. So does Bridget choose Charlie's garden with bin storage, veg beds and an Irish-inspired water feature? Or Lee's space, full of Celtic mysticism?
OK, let's see which one we like best.
I do like both designs, but Is there one we prefer?
Yeah.
In Lee's design, I like the idea of the meandering path. It's very interesting. And also the stone monoliths and the willow arches. On the other hand, Charlie has got more practical design, isn't she?
Yeah.
Don't you think so? For me,
Yeah.
it incorporates a lot of the features I wanted, really, which is the water feature, the vegetable gardens, which I can get stuck into.
There's more zones as well.
More zones, and also some extra patio at the front.
The only thing with Charlie's, it's not as Celtic as Lee's design.
I'm torn between the two.
Yeah.
Now it's all down to Bridget and Aaron, because only one design can win.
OK, so it's a really tough decision, but we've decided to go with Charlie's design. We just thought that it was more practical. You know, the patio area had been thought about, and the bin store as well. And then the vegetable plots, so Mum can grow her potatoes and vegetables like the carrots. The water feature being in the middle of the garden as well, it's just something you can hear from all sides of the garden.
I also love this apple tree down here at the bottom in the bench for the evening time. And the arbour, because I always want an arbour with some plants and roses going around it.
Charlie's fantastic design has won the day.
Well, as they say in Ireland, that was a good crack. I won.
I was surprised Bridget chose your rubbish design.
What do you mean rubbish design?
The rubbish bin store.
Oh, you're close to the mark there, close to the mark. I was surprised she chose my design because you had all that lovely Celtic detail.
I think I got a bit bogged down, though, with the Emerald Isle.
Well, hopefully the landscape team don't get bogged down, and not us either.
Well, I've got me waders.
It's the day of the build in Kettering. And the landscaping team, led by project manager Ben, can't wait to get going.
Okay, Charlie design for Bridget and Aaron. A little bit of a touch of the Irish going in this one. A lot going on. So, Lee, I need you concentrating on this bin store.
Yep.
We need to hide those bins, but it's got a green roof as well. So
It's got to be structurally strong enough to hold the green roof.
There's
that's
a-
not bad.
Andy, we need to sort out these steps at the top of the house. You've seen them. There's a lot of work that needs to
work
go.
there, mate.
Yeah. We know you babble on a bit, so after you've done that in an hour, can I get you down here in the babbling brook, please?
If I've got time, yes.
If you've got any time. Pergola, curved screen. Got some veg beds going in as well.
And what's that?
Little bench as
No,
well.
so I'll just do that with my other hand.
Okay, guys, huge garden. Lot to do, so we do need the luck of the Irish with this one.
There's no time to lose, and the first job is to get the digger in. Next, Andy can set to work removing the thick concrete by the house.
Will it move or won't it move?
That'll do for patio, won't it?
Patio's done.
Patio's done, Ben.
Whilst the old concrete gets a hammering, Lee starts to build the wooden frames for the bin storage. Overall, the timber for this garden set the budget back more than £1,000.
Perfect.
And it may be early in the build, but Ben's feeling optimistic.
Team are doing absolutely fantastic. Such a big garden, but there is so much going on in the top area of this garden. Andy and Lee are cracking on with the steps and the bin store. Paul's getting all the veg beds done. James is helping with the mixing and the patio. It's all going on. It's coming together really quickly.
As Lee's bin store progresses, Andy's new brick steps with paver tops transform the space near the house. And further down the garden, Paul's been working at a frantic pace on the raised veg beds.
The oak is looking fantastic. How are we getting on, Paul? I can see two's been made.
Yeah, 2 made on the final one.
Excellent. I think Charlie's going to be happy with them.
The landscapers are flat out. In the central zone, the ground is levelled for the seating area, whilst Ben's digging holes for the pergola posts. The veg beds are positioned near the fence, and Lee's building a retaining wall for the new patio by the house. It's lucky everything is ticking along, because Charlie and Lee are about to arrive.
good morning to you, or should I say top of the morning to you.
And what a glorious morning it is, Charlie.
It is, and this is all about bringing some Irish charm to Bridget's garden. Reminder of her years growing up in Ireland, holidays she's had there. So she wants a garden to relax in, grow a few fruit and veg, but low maintenance.
Sounds very dreamy. So what do you want me to do?
Well, I was so inspired by all that Celtic detail in your design. I want you to come up with some of that sort of detail to add to the trellis area or maybe the seating and veg area, and I'll be cracking on with the water feature.
Sounds good. I'll bring a bit of Celtic charm.
Oh, I hope so.
Wow, look at this slope.
I know. Goodness me. Wow. Wow.
I can see a leprechaun. Off I go.
This garden has been a huge challenge because of all the different levels. Our gardens, I mean, we all want a garden that looks lovely and is pretty, but at the end of the day, we got to make it practical. We all have dustbins, so this storage bin area here is going to be great because when Bridget comes out the back door, she doesn't see them, and we're going to make a feature of the roof area here as well. The other thing was the steps outside of Bridget's back door were really narrow and really steep. So what I wanted to do is make the steps wider and bigger and bring them out into the garden. Now there is a big drop down here, but we're going to swing it round and lead it to a little patio area here. And then we're going to plant that up. It means that this little patio area, Bridget will be surrounded by plants. And then when she looks to the left, she'll see down through the pergola to the feature tree at the bottom of the garden. Round here we're going to have simple shrub planting, low maintenance, colour all year round, and then we've got the veg beds. Now these are great because they're just at the right height that Bridget can sit on the edge, work, and then leading down here, this is where we're going to have the very simple water feature, a little stream like a babbling brook to a reflective pool. And then we've got this pergola, so we're going to cover that with climbers. And then there's going to be another piece of trellis here. So this is a second seating area, a little bit bigger, where Bridget can bring family and friends and sit down at the bottom of the garden away from the house. It's a big garden, we've got a lot to do, but we're going to do it, yes!
There's not a second to lose, so Andy's back in the digger, this time levelling the ground for the contemporary patio near the steps. But Charlie's hatched another plan.
Andy?
Help, Charlie.
I'm glad you've got your digger.
Yeah, me and all.
Yeah, you're a bit good on the digger, and I want you to make my life easy. So would you mind digging out the reservoir for the babbling brook?
Of course I can, yeah.
So it's going to go down there near the pergola.
Yeah.
And it's just a shallow dish. It's good watching people work. I'd go deeper, because then we're lining it and then...
With Andy's expertise, the hole is dug in no time. This means Charlie and Lee can tackle something rather cumbersome that needs delivering to the bottom of the steep garden.
I don't know! Oh no!
Put the brakes on!
It's like taking the balancing wheels off your bike, isn't it? Stabilisers! We've got a beautiful feature tree, crabapple, one that flowers early spring. The buds are dark pink and they open up into a white colour, but it's scented as well. And then come the autumn, the crab apples are really lovely feature on the tree. So this is going to be beautiful from that end of the garden when you look down, but also when you're sat there looking this way.
Meanwhile, Lee's gone to the front of the house to start work on his project for Charlie.
So Charlie wanted me to bring a bit of Celtic charm to the garden. So I've squirreled myself away and I've got these offcuts of wood. And I've had an idea. By taking this rope, I can make a Celtic infinity knot, which is a knot that has no beginning and no end. So what I'm going to do is create the knot and then adhere it to this block of wood. I might even paint it green to bring a bit of the emerald isle to the garden. And then I was thinking, with this other piece of wood, I could make a bird feeder, but not an ordinary bird feeder. It would be a bird feeder for birds like robins that like to eat mealworms from a flat surface. Just a little polite nod to the Celtic theme.
And after some clever rope manipulation and a spot of glue,
And there we go.
the mystical knot is tied, so its base gets a lick of paint. Back at the bottom of the garden, the mighty crabapple tree that cost £250 is ready to be planted.
3, 2, 1. Oh, actually, back a little bit. That's the one. Crabapple trees are great for a small garden. They don't get too big, they don't create too much shade, and when the leaves come off, they're not so big that you've got to rake loads and loads of them up.
And whilst the pergola posts are cemented in, Charlie's just got to backfill the tree's hole.
So this garden is all up and down and up and down, so I'm having to build this side up with turf, but I'm going to leave that area void of turf. So by having no grass around the base of it, it will root down much more quickly. They say that with grass growing right up to a tree, it reduces the growth of the tree by almost a third. So it's definitely worth keeping that clear for at least the first year or second year, and then letting the grass come up to it.
That's what must have happened to me then. There must have been a whole load of grass around me when I was growing up, and that's why I'm so short.
After some fresh topsoil, the tree is done. Out front, Lee's gentle nod to Ireland is also progressing well.
So I've just made the bracket for the bird feeder, and you'll notice that it's an unusual shape. And that's because this is the bit that will go against the fence. We're then going to have the infinity knot sat on this little green plinth, but I need space for the birds. So if I kept it symmetrical, we wouldn't have much space. So they need to be able to land either on the knot or on here and then feed. And this is going to be a little table for mealworms.
Back in the central zone, the Queen of Ponds is turning her attention to the babbling brook.
Andy's done all the hard work for me, like digging out the biggest area for the reservoir, but now it's a case of sculpting it. So I've created a bit of a meandering channel here, and then once we've got the liner in, I'll put rocks in to create pools.
Whilst the team continue to build the pergola, Charlie's finished with the spade and the babbling brook is ready to be waterproofed.
And we're just putting the fleece down, which protects the liner from any stones and roots coming through, because sometimes you can get quite vigorous grasses that will pierce liners. So we bought one big liner, but to make this work more easily, we've cut it into two. So I've got a long strip for the stream and a big rectangular bit for the pool area. We'll put this one in first, and then the stream one comes in and over the top.
That's it.
Not underneath, because if it's going to leak anywhere, it'll be on the stream.
Yep.
The materials for the pond cost around £260, and it doesn't take long to wrestle the liner into place so it can be filled up.
At least it's running in the right direction. That's a good start.
So am I.
Oh, well, exit. When it comes to trimming the liner up, it's definitely worth cutting it too big and then going round afterwards. So I'm just going to take the surplus off, then start dressing it with the cobbles and creating the pools, and then after that go back round and take the excess off.
Whilst Charlie's scissors get a workout, at the front of the house, Kettering's bird population are in for a Celtic treat.
Right, so that's finished. Ta-da!
In the central zone of the garden near the pergola, Charlie's on to her next task, which will enhance the look of the pond.
And I'm using these lovely bits of slate to create pools. Now, if I just place them on that straight bit of liner, the water would run down underneath. So what I'm doing is using offcuts of the liner and lining each pool that I've made so that when the pump is turned off, there will actually be puddles of water up the stream, because otherwise it will just look like a dry gravel bed.
Once the pools are made, the brook is ready for some pebble embellishment that set the budget back around £100. Then the pump is ready to be tested.
On goes the pump. See how it goes.
Success.
And the sound is lovely.
Whilst Carpenter Lee has built a timber bench to sit under the crabapple tree at the bottom of the garden, up by the house, Lee's next project will bring the bin store alive.
So Charlie's tasked me with making this interesting green roof, which is going to screen off the bin store that she's designed. But first things first, I need to line it with a bit of this pond liner just to protect the wood and make sure that it lasts far longer.
The roof may be watertight, but it has to be safe as well, so keeping the weight down is key.
So you might be wondering what I'm doing with all these clay pebbles. So this is Leica. It's lightweight expanding clay aggregate, otherwise known as clay pebbles. And the beauty of this stuff is it's super lightweight, but it absorbs moisture. And when it does, it expands. But it also allows in air, so you can plant directly into it.
The clay balls set the budget back £60, but it's not finished yet.
And then I'm going to plant in some herbs. So when Bridget comes out of the back door, she's going to be met with a sea of different herbs at different heights. And also, the scent from the herbs may hide any odours from the bin.
In the central zone near the pergola, the second seating area is being finished with a semicircle of upright timber posts, which will be screened for privacy.
Right, Charlie. Trellis. What I'm thinking, if you plant it behind the posts, so you're not seeing no fixings.
It'd be nice if it does go behind, because those are nice posts, and also that gives me a bit of planting on the inside as well as the outside.
That's it then. That's the decision made.
So the trellis is going to swing round here to make this quite a sort of cosy little seating area looking at the water feature. So it will be nice and secluded here, and then Bridget can, if she wants, wander out and go and sit down here and sit on this lovely bench underneath the tree.
Up by the house, Lee's roof garden is ready for a fresh touch.
So one of the plants I'm going to put to this green roof is mint. Now, mint is known, it's quite a vigorous herb and it tends to run and take over flower beds. But because this is contained, it's going to be absolutely fine. And I actually want it to run, I want it to take over. And by burying it in this Leica, it will start to send out runners. But the beauty of mint is that it smells beautiful. You can use its leaves for things like mint tea and desserts, it aids digestion, and it will just start to take over and spill over the sides of this green roof.
Whilst Carpenter Lee makes the second seating area feel secluded with the trellising that cost around £90, the bin store's herb garden is looking good enough to eat.
And that's the last plant in this living roof. I think Bridget's going to love it because she'll be able to walk out the back door and then she can be met with all these beautiful aromatic herbs.
In the central zone near the babbling brook, Charlie's preparing Bridget's raised veg beds.
These are looking nice, Charlie.
Yeah, just getting them filled up now as well, veg beds.
They're just at that nice height, just to...
Nice and easy, but
Garden.
also perching as well.
Ah.
But it's a bit uncomfortable because it's quite sharp.
It's a little bit thin on the old touche, that.
Yes, would you like to make a little seat for
Yeah, why not? I'm
Bridget?
sure I can knock something up to spread the weight.
Yeah, and so it moves one to the other.
Brilliant.
Yeah?
Clever, right. Go and see what I can do.
Right.
With that, Lee crafts a seat to make tending the raised beds easy for Bridget.
How are we getting on?
Yeah, it's looking good. One more screw.
Time for a test.
There we go. How's that?
Woohoo!
Feel like I need a fishing rod.
You look like a leprechaun now.
But there's no time for mischief. The team have to start the planting. Charlie spent £850 on a plethora of perennials, produce and shrubs.
Easy, straightforward shrubs down here. Flowering shrub border, mixture of evergreens, things that flower at different times of the year. Some need pruning, but if Bridget doesn't want to prune them, it's fine, they'll do okay.
And Lee's excited by one of Charlie's choices.
Now, this shrub here is a really beautiful and interesting one. It's a Hamamelis virginiana, or the American witch hazel. And the beauty about this shrub is that it flowers in the autumn. Now, Chinese witch hazel flowers in the winter, but this is a bit earlier. And what this shrub will do is extend the seasons. Whilst other plants are finished, this will then come into bloom. So it's a clever choice from Charlie because it means there's always going to be something of interest going on in the garden. It's really unusual, sweet scent to them. And it's really heady. When you walk through, you can spot it a mile off. And you can clip it into almost like a tree-like shape as well. So it's a beautiful shrub, great all-rounder, and that autumn interest is perfect.
Charlie's also chosen a classic British shrub that'll bring plenty of colour.
If you want a really low maintenance rose, go for what are called the carpet roses or ground cover roses, or they're sometimes called bedding roses. You don't have to do anything to them, so you don't have to worry about feeding them too much. You don't have to worry about pruning, and they just flower and flower. And all you need to do is, if there's a branch that's sort of coming over the pathway, you just snip it off. And they come in lots of different colours, whites, pinks and reds. So definitely the way to go if you want ease of maintenance.
And it's not just shrubs. Charlie's perennials have also sparked Lee's interest.
Now this is one of my favourite all-time plants. It's a leucanthemum, otherwise known as the oxeye daisy. Now the oxeye daisy is one of our native wildflowers. Now the scent is really unusual, not for everyone's taste, but don't let that put you off because it's a super tough plant and it will come back year after year because it's a perennial. It will also set seed and sort of work its way throughout parts of the lawn if you leave them to go wild. So it's a beautiful plant, really iconic, and this bright white flower here really pops out against the other colours in the garden. This is a really smart choice.
As the garden comes together, the beds get fresh topsoil, and Charlie's got one special plant left for Bridget.
I said to Bridget that I would give her a feature shrub in the middle of the lawn. But because of the way the steps have come and we've increased this patio area, I'm going to put the feature shrub by the side of the patio, so it'll make this patio a nice sort of secluded area to sit in the morning time. And the feature shrub I've gone for is this euonymus. Euonymus alatus. Now, a lot of euonymuses are evergreen, but this one's deciduous, and it looks very plain and boring at the moment. Come the autumn time, these change colour to a red and pink and purple, and it's often called a firebush. Now, if you look here, you can see one or two leaves are just starting to change colour. So the whole bush goes that colour. So it'll look fantastic. But what it also does is it means that it sort of screens the rest of the garden. So you don't see the whole garden at once. So it's going to be somewhere that she can explore and wander around.
The team are working flat out. Gravel that set the budget back £300 is going down. Fresh turf is being laid. And Lee's gift to Kettering's feathered friends gets a new home.
So there we have my little Celtic bird feeder. So Bridget can come out, sit in a patio, look at the infinite knot and watch the birds feed. Charlie, what do you reckon to this?
I think it's great. I'm loving the Celtic knot. Or is it a shamrock? Or is it a Girl Guides emblem?
Girl Guides emblem, definitely.
No,
Definitely.
it's not. It's amazing.
I'm quite impressed with it.
With that, the garden is finished.
So Charlie, I mean, this was a tricky site, wasn't it? Had this huge camber, but look what you've done.
Well, everyone's done it. It was a bit of a mammoth task, and I mean, what with all the levels, I mean, for me, I have to say what I'm really pleased about is the back door, because before, for Bridget, I mean, the steps were really steep. It was really ugly with the bins, but now, very safe, big area there to walk down. It actually looks attractive.
Yeah, it's
and you
beautiful.
can't see the bins because of your roof garden. There's all those herbs right outside the back door.
Yeah.
But I'm loving this seat.
Is it comfortable?
It's very comfy, very comfy.
Yeah, I think, like you say, Bridget's going to come out. She's got all these little focal points, low fuss, but the fact that you've elongated an already long garden and given it a bit of a journey, I think is beautiful.
Yeah. And what I love are the colours. I mean, it's what the Irish would probably say is soft colours. When they talk about the weather when it's raining, they say, oh, it's soft.
It's a little bit
weather.
soft.
Yeah, so it's very calming and relaxing.
Yeah.
And then they've got the seating area down there where they'll feel sort of enclosed. And when this is running, the sound of the water and the birds coming in, and I'm loving the bird feed. I know you think it's silly, but I think it's really
But
cool.
the big question is, would I get my Girl Guides badge for that?
You probably would, wouldn't you?
Job well done, then.
Right.
Well, let's get our lip gloss on and go and get Bridget.
When the team arrived, this heavily lawned, sloping garden was bland and devoid of planting. It had an unusable patio, dangerous stairs, and ugly bins. But after working with a £5,000 budget, it's been transformed. New, safe stairs lead from the house past the bin store with its herb-laden roof to a gravel-bordered contemporary patio. From there, there's raised veg and fruit beds, new lawn and plenty of low-maintenance planting leading to the babbling brook. Beyond that, another sheltered seating place surrounded by trellis and climbers. At the bottom of the garden, a crabapple tree provides dappled shade for the bench below. But what will Bridget and Aaron think of their new garden?
Do you want to open your eyes?
Oh my God.
Beautiful, yeah. Very nice.
It's really different.
Really different, yeah.
So what do you think about the steps? Because your steps weren't overly safe, were they?
No, they weren't. They were too narrow. I often fell down them, yeah.
Yeah, so
But they're
that's...
nice and wide now, yeah. They're beautiful, yeah.
And you can't see those horrible dustbins.
No, it's been lovely. Oh, lovely.
Ah, the bin store's getting a look.
Lee's been ever so busy with the herbs on the top. So we've got lots of glorious herbs.
It's gorgeous, yeah.
Thyme and mint.
Rosemary.
And rosemary, so handy for the kitchen.
Very nice.
And then also great because it masks the scent of the bins. You won't
Yeah, it's
smell
true,
the bins,
yeah.
so that would be lovely. So the planting around here is all really low maintenance shrubs or roses that just look after themselves. This shrub here will come up and just overarch this new patio area. It makes that little area there quite secluded, so you can sit out there with your morning cup of tea.
True, yeah.
So wander down and check out the rest of the garden. I know, Bridget, you were really keen to get some veg into the garden because you remember growing up your dad doing that.
Bridget spotted those vegetables. You can see she's reminiscing.
So we got these raised beds so they're easy to maintain, but Lee's been busy. Have a perch on that. So Lee's been ever so busy with the herbs on the top. So we've got thyme, mint, rosemary, so perch there,
Comfy, yeah.
do a bit of gardening,
Yeah,
but it moves as well, so you can move it from one to the other.
It'd be lovely, yeah.
Ah, the bench seems pretty stable. Bridget seems really happy to sit there looking at all the tomatoes and vegetables.
So we've got lots of veg here, strawberries, peppers, aubergines, runner beans, tomatoes. Come down and check out this second seating area. So we've got the water feature that will have lovely gentle sound. The birds will love it and they'll come
Bit
down to
wildlife.
drink and bathe in the shallow pools. And then we've got this other seating area. So come and have a seat here. Now this trellis that's going to wrap round you. The plants on the pergola will come up and over. We've got a lovely star jasmine there, so the scent will be gorgeous.
It's such a clever design from Charlie to lead them down the garden, past that wildlife pond, to that second seating area where they're hugged by the trellis.
So, can you see yourself sitting down here?
I can, yeah. I can
With
have my morning coffee in the morning.
Morning coffee.
Bridget can see herself sat there having a morning coffee.
So these shrubs are really low maintenance. I would just let them all merge together and they'll give you colour right from early spring into the autumn. I mean, that feature shrub there, that one that just looks green in the middle by the patio, goes bright fuchsia pink in the autumn. It's amazing. And I would say leave this area here long because the birds will like that, like meadow grass. But we have also got a plant down here that the birds will really love. Come and have a look.
Bridget seems to be in awe of all these different plants because before there was just nothing here but grass.
So down here, Bridget, we have a tree that the birds will love. Have a perch on the bench underneath the crabapple tree.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Good size.
Beautiful, yeah.
Good size. And the other thing is in the spring, the flowers, they start off pink as buds, open up white, and the scent is gorgeous. Get autumn colour from the leaves, but also the little crab apples stay on until December.
It'll be lovely.
Orange, so it looks almost like a Christmas tree with baubles on. But the birds will love it. And the other thing that the birds will love, and Lee's been busy on this, and it's a nod to your roots. There's a mealworm feeder on the fence up there with a little Celtic knot on there, rope.
Very nice.
Very nice, yeah. Lovely.
They're sat on the bench, looking round the garden. There's so much to take in. They both seem a bit starstruck by the garden because there's just so much here.
So can you see yourself enjoying
Oh, I can, yes, yeah. Very much, yeah.
pottering in your retirement?
Yeah, yeah.
It's completely different.
Yeah, it's completely
Yeah, I love
different,
it.
yeah.
Lots of watering,
Yeah, lots of watering.
lots of watering, but once it's established,
It'll be gorgeous,
Nothing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Gorgeous, yeah.
I can imagine that Bridget's going to be sat out here every day enjoying this fantastic new garden.
It's lovely, really. It's transformation, really, from before. Lots of little different zones, so I'm really pleased with it, yeah.
One of the biggest festivals here one day and gone the next. The rise and fall of Tea in the Park. Listen now on BBC Sounds. And Freddie Flintoff might have unearthed a secret weapon to give the team the boost they need. Field of Dreams tonight at 8 on BBC One.